All right. Well, hey everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. It's Friday. Can't wait to be um, relaxing during the weekend. My name is Pitzel Krotova, and I am the Director of Institutional Assessment here at Murray State. This presentation is part of the Institutional Assessment Learning Series hosted by our office, the institutional effectiveness. Today is the final session in this series of 7 presentations held during this year, academic year and fiscal year 24-25. So this initiative was launched by our assessment team with the goal of sharing knowledge and best practices related to outcomes assessment. And it also serves as a platform to invite colleagues with assessment experience, to share their insights and discuss how they manage assessment activities and processes within their respective departments. Um, so I will be your presenter today. I hope you're not too disappointed. I'm excited to walk you through something really, I believe, critical to our work in higher ed, which is the effective assessment reporting. The connecting the dots metaphor in assessment, particularly in the assessment report, is just the process of understanding the relationships between different elements, including, of course, the approved plan that was submitted in the prior year, to draw inferences, conclusions, and story of learning, improvement, and action. All right, so just a little bit about me before I start the actual presentation. I've been in Murray State since 2019. I started out as a graduate student research assistant in the same office. I was specifically hired to work on multiple narratives and evidentiary documents for the SACS COC's fifth year interim report. So that was like a long time ago. Those narratives are particularly aiming about student achievement and, of course, student outcome standards. I was in the doctoral program back then in the College of Education. Um, Prior to Murray State, I worked for the College of Business in Abu Dhabi University in the United Arab of Emirates. It's somewhere in the Middle East with a similar description of job, um, but it's kind of the same capacity as what I have right now, but in different job title. So I have almost 15 years of experience in higher education, specifically on the academic administration and institutional effectiveness side, where I enjoy working alongside faculty and staff, collaborating and assisting them in anything related to outcomes assessment. I am also currently the chair of the University Assessment Committee here at Murray State. It's one of the standing committees who is in charge of assessment policies and procedures, as well as evaluating your assessment plans and report submissions. In my spare time, aside from being a mom of 3, I provide training consultations about assessment best practices to universities here and abroad. Now, a little bit about our office, the institutional effectiveness. So our office has 2 subunits, the institutional research and the institutional assessment, which is I'm in charge of. The assessment office coordinates, annual reporting, reviews, and feedback. And we also liaise with programs, academic programs, and departments, the administrative units, as well as with the University Assessment Committee. We basically help and support your assessment efforts to improve, of course, the student learning and services, as well as operational effectiveness. So basically, we're your partners in this process. Now, the learning objectives, I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to explain why assessment reporting matters, identify the key elements of an assessment report and how they are interrelated or connected to one another, and tell a meaningful and data-driven story that adheres to Murray State, which is in turn with SAC's COC's expectations. I also wanted this to be a little bit interactive, so we'll do a little quick quiz later on to apply what we've learned or what we'll cover. So fun. All right, let's start with answering this question, why assessment reporting matters. If anyone would be asked this question, the first thing that will come to mind is compliance, right? Everybody will say it's a checklist, it's a check mark, it's because it's what the accreditation wants. While I don't normally mention, or I try to stay away from mentioning the word accreditation, I think it's important to know that that's the floor and not the ceiling, if you know what I'm saying. I've listed down some standards in the slide that are applicable to all of us, to you for your awareness. But in a nutshell, those standards require us to document, that we are identifying expected outcomes, we're assessing to the extent to which they are achieved, and to provide evidence of improvement based on those results. With that, it kind of tells us that it supports accountability, but not just for our accreditors, be it professional or regional accreditors, but also to students, parents, and also to ourselves. And it also connects to our mission statement, our strategic initiatives and strategic attributes, because I do believe that strong reports do align learning services and operations with the overall institutional values. It also basically just tells your story. It justifies our existence. Your assessment report is your chance to show what matters to your program or to your department and unit, and what changes are making an impact. Also, it informs strategic decisions. Those strategic planning, curriculum reform, and budgeting, it all relies on assessment. And finally, of course, it drives improvement. Research shows that reflective, well-structured assessment do improve student outcomes, departmental services, and operations, but only when we take action on results. It's not just like we assess and then that's it. We change something and we don't follow through. So you notice I started at the bottom, but for me, this is the actual hierarchy. Assessment is just beyond compliance. All right. You may have seen this before. I've been sending like tip of the week emails. I haven't done for the past 2 weeks. I've been busy. But let's just break it down with this model, which is described by Fulcher and everybody else, the Way Feed Way Pig. It is a model that encourages, cyclical process of assessment, intervention, and reassessment, allowing for, of course, continuous improvement. While this model caters more on the academic side, I believe it is also applicable to the administrative units. You see, by comparing the pre and the post intervention assessment, we can demonstrate whether the implemented changes actually led to improved student learning, to our services, or to our operations. So Weigh the Pig, the number one here, is where we actually assess our outcomes. But as they say, weighing alone doesn't make the pig fatter. Just as like when we collect data, it doesn't lead to any improvement if we don't do the next or the following step. The feed the pig is the crucial part, in my opinion, here. It means making informed changes, like revising instruction, curriculum, updating your assignments, or providing different supports and services to students or to whoever your stakeholders are. It could be staff and faculty, just like our office. So that's on the second part, the feed the pig. Now the way again, this is where after that intervention, we do reassess. This is where we actually ask ourselves, did the changes work? This is where true improvement is documented. So these authors of this model stress that real improvement only happens when these steps are repeated. These 3 steps are repeated in a circular motion in cycle. And that is like very intentional, and it's repeated, it's iterative, and it's embedded within the culture. All right. So that brings us to our own assessment cycle. So this is a typical assessment cycle that most programs and administrative units follow. Similar to that model that I showed earlier, I call this PDCA, plan, do, check, and act. It's a process for continuous improvement. I consider this model like a micro level process that is embedded with the bigger picture, which is this one, the MSU's assessment process. In this macro level process, as you can see, there are like 3 parties that are collaborating and are fully involved in here. The process starts with, of course, the faculty and the staff with the academic programs and the units where they identify or revisit their outcomes. And then they assess it to those outcomes and submit it to our office, who provides, resources and support. And it all ends with the University Assessment Committee, where they review your submissions, your plans and reports, and provide feedback. I just want to point out here that those PDCA that I showed earlier, yeah, this one, that's the one that is connected in here, where you plan, that's when you submit your assessment plan, and then you do is when you actually conduct the assessments within your programs, and then you check, wherein you collect the data, you provide, you analyze and provide recommendation, and then create your report, and then of course implement change. That's just a continuous one. The due dates are in there in the plan stage. That's October 1st every year. Everybody knows this. The report is due on September 15 on the following year. So what we plan right now, we'll conduct assessment for the entire year, and we submit the report the next year. All right. So the elements of assessment plan. Now, this is the fun part. I will not take too much of our time in this part, because it needs a real separate presentation. It's a whole big of a ball game. But in essence, the assessment plan has 4 elements. Well, 5 if you're managing an academic program. So annually, programs and units decide how many and which outcomes to assess. It's their discretion. Then each of those identified outcomes for assessment will need to have multiple measures. And what I mean by that is at least 2. Multiple. When we say 2 measures that's considered multiple. So for each outcome, you need to have at least 2 measures. Now, this is where the curriculum matrix will come in, which would help academic programs to identify which course the assessment tool will derive, right? Now, each measure requires a performance target, as you see here, the number 3. That's where the criteria and target is. And finally, the plan will need the planning process, which is a narrative, a comprehensive, and a short and concise one that basically explains how that particular plan in that particular year was developed. So it involves those approaches about student learning and effectiveness and service efficiency. Now, the elements of assessment report. I want to start with the findings. Given that the plan has been submitted and, of course, approved by the university assessment committee, the assessment report will need findings. And this is the actual raw data without any analysis in all. Now, in the next slide, I just showed it earlier. In SPAL, SPAL is our, for those who don't know, it's the assessment management platform that we're currently using. We include all this information as part of our findings. You will basically just key in all this information, like the semester, if you're in academic programs, how many sample size, and what's the target actual result of based on your target. So the form differs depending on whether you're from the academic or the administrative side. I could not emphasize enough to utilize the notes field here, because if you write just the actual percentage, nobody will ever understand what that means. So you are just basically saying we reach. I saw an email from a chat from Rebecca. Is this software we have access to? Yes, we have access to SPAL. Everybody has access to SPAL, and I will make sure you will have that access after this presentation. It's SPOL. It stands for Strategic Planning Online. We have it in our website. Yeah, what I'm saying is that in the notes field, we need to explain the actual result of your assessment. You can say as short as target met and break down those sample size into whatever it is. If you use a rubric, you might want to break it down how many are who needs who scored 4 out of 5, how many who scored 2 out of 3, and all those things. It basically answers, did you meet or exceed or fall short of your set targets? What did the data say? So this is where you put in the notes field. You don't need to explain or provide any findings or conclusions yet. Now, you can see here in this slide that you have the ability to create multiple findings based on your needs, of course. It could be that you have data collected using the same measure or assessment tool that are from multiple faculty or multiple sections, or even in multiple semesters. Now, the beauty of having a web-based platform, not that I'm saying I'm loving SPAL, it auto-calculates your numbers. So whatever you enter, like the findings you enter in each of those measures that you created, it calculates for you automatically so you can see everything together, like the overall result for that outcome. Now, the analysis of results. This is extremely helpful when you're starting to do your outcome analysis. This is the section of your report where you explain and interpret what happened and why. So it's what and why. This is where you brainstorm with your fellow faculty and colleagues. This is where you look at the big picture and critically reflect on your assessments. If this is a reassessment of outcome, like you're reassessing that same outcome, you have done that before, you can include in this section about the impact compared to the previous outcome result. This is like an opportunity for you to show that you're closing the loop. All right. In SPAL, you will see that we have added some questions, information and question guide to help you write or narrate your analysis. When you click on that it's very small, but you will see it there. If you click on that icon, it will pop up some guiding questions. All right, so the analysis part will give you ideas about possible changes and action plan or recommendations, or as we know, the use of results for improvement. In the use of results section, you may want to ask yourselves, what are you going to do based on the findings? What will you do to improve or even sustain or even celebrate your achievement? So that's where the part where you write all those action plans, recommendations, and changes. Same as earlier, we have added some information and question guide in the use of results section in SPAL to help you write your use of results for improvement. Now, the last element of the assessment report is the reporting process. You will need to write in this section a narrative that documents the process of developing your report for that particular year. Sometimes we see some reports that it's just the same actual narrative that are based off last year. Every year is unique. Sometimes we change our measures, even faculty, sometimes somebody else is teaching a different course. So every year should have a very different or unique reporting process narrative. This section is not a repetition of analysis or use of result. This section basically summarizes your assessment process with emphasis on how it was developed, who are involved, how it connects to previous assessments, and of course, your plans to communicate and when to share your changes and recommendations. Like in SPAL, it looks like this. So you basically type in a very short, it doesn't need to be very long, 5 pages narrative. A short one that basically answers those guiding questions. All right. I have created here a dummy program, which I call underwater basket weaving. This is an example of, I should say, an exemplary report. It isn't too long, it isn't too short, but what you see in here is basically what is needed in each of those elements that we just discussed. Like in here, the findings for this report in 21-22 includes 3 measures, essay, presentation, and demo explanation. Each of them have their own actual results and some explanations. I did not put something for the second and third one just to fit in one slide, but you get the gist. It's similar to what is written in that essay measure. So if you are an university assessment committee, I can see some people who are university assessment committee members here. Hi, Melissa and Sharon. This is the rubric, the criteria in the overall rubric that we use. So is it complete and well organized, the data collection relevant, making sure it's connected with the measure that you plan out. If it's not the same measure, at least you explain it in some other elements. So that's where the findings are. Now, the analysis of results, again, it doesn't need to be that long. As long as you critically reflect on what actually happened throughout your assessment activities, that is good. You will receive some good scores here. If you receive, for example, a level 2 score here, you're not really required to revise it based on our current policies. But if you receive a level 1, that definitely needs to be revised and resubmitted to us. So members of the University Assessment Committee does do a great job in scoring all these reports and plans. Now, in here, it's very clear what are expected in the analysis of results area. You need to provide a thorough analysis of findings. So whatever raw data that you have illustrated in that section earlier, you have to explain that what you found out. And this should be a collaborative activity with your colleagues. Sometimes it's just the assessment coordinator who does everything, even though the assessment coordinator did not conduct the assessment. So it's good exercise to sit down and talk about it, maybe during the meetings or retreat. Now, the user results, again, as you can see, it's not that long, but it's very clear here that you have a plan on, remember what SACs are saying? Seeking for improvement. That's the key word there. We need to seek for improvement. And at least if you receive or achieve high targets or even beyond your target, at least provide some explanation here on what are you planning to do since you reached your target. You cannot be like just stagnant and staying on that level. Okay, reporting process. Again, this is an example. I will give you a copy of this PowerPoint slide so you can have like something to go back to later on if you're about to create your report. Are 6 and 7 supposed to be in SPAL? Yes, everything that you see here are in SPAL, Rebecca. Now, this is, I think, the reassessment for 24, 25. So earlier, it's like 21, 22. And then after 3 years, the program decided on reassessing that same outcome. You're not required to assess your outcome every year. If that is something that you need to do for your own professional accrediting body, you can do that. But on the side of the requirements here in the institutional assessment, you are not required to do that. And you can actually and intentionally plan how you would wanna assess all your outcomes within 3-year cycle. So you can see here, it's an achievement. Even though it's a great achievement, they still have something to say or something to do to sustain or even to achieve more. Now, this is an example for assessment in the administrative side. So this is the SSO, means student support outcomes. Now, for the administrative units, we have 2 types of outcomes. We have administrative outcomes and student support outcomes. Those units like us fall under the administrative outcomes because we don't directly deal with students. We deal with staff and faculty. So like, for example, Melissa's trio program or student support, student support success, that right, Melissa? They do have student support outcomes. So in here, this is the academic integrity dummy program. Student support outcome 1 was reassessed according to this example using those updated tools and new workshop, that optional workshop participation. And it shows that they have remarkably good improvement among all those measures that they use. Now, even though I think there's a below target here, the workshop has a below target. Yes, they only have like 43%. They explained here that those attendees showed deeper understanding of policies, and what is needed really in the report is that your reflection is a true testament of what really happened, and it's an honest and action-oriented type. All right. Now, let's test our knowledge based on that. I promise these are easy tasks. We'll have some example, like sample narratives for some elements of the assessment report, just like this one. This is for the analysis of result. Now, if you read this, we're gonna act like university committee member and score the narratives the way they are written. I'll launch a poll and it will have criteria from the current rubric. This is analysis report 1. Hopefully you're seeing the poll now. If you could answer, the results were obtained through campus visit check-ins. This is the analysis of a sample, maybe admin or a program. Do you think this analysis would be at level 1, which is the lowest score? It's not an analysis at all. Would it be at level 2, or would it be level 3? I'll give you like 1 minute to answer that. All right. We do have 4 answers. I agree. This is a level 2 one because it's not exactly saying that there's no analysis. Something is written here, but it needs more information. You see, assessment report, there's nothing wrong with any assessment reports that are being submitted. It's a matter of communicating and explaining it well on exactly what happened during your assessment activities. That is right. All right, this is a little bit long, but let's start with that one. So it says here, let me see. I think yeah. PLO targets were not met for several reasons. My philosophy of teaching has always been that learning was more important than the grade given. In the past, I allow students to turn in major projects as draft. However, in this class, I had 28 students when the class began. Do you think this is an analysis of results that would be at level 3 or level 2? I think I made a mistake. Yeah, I think I made a mistake. It didn't fall through. Okay, let's move on. I'll go with this one. We typically receive as an analysis of results something like this. 100% of our students scored and above our benchmark on their theses. So we're quite pleased with the results. I think it's the one. If you could score it and rate it for me, please. Thank you. There are some people scoring it. Yes, it's very clear this is not an analysis of results. It's just this is a clear claim that they have scored well without showing the real data or information. So it's not data driven. Anybody can say this, but showing it or illustrating how, that's even better, right? Now, in terms of use of results, there's this one here. The data did not reveal any significant areas of weakness. To gain a more precise understanding of students' strengths and areas for improvement, we may think of improving the rubric. What do you think about this use of results? Do you think use of results? Okay, this one doesn't work. My polls are not launching anymore. Anyway, this kind of use of results is at level 2. It's incomplete. And the word saying we may think, you need to be sure what exactly your actions are based on the data that you have collected and what you found out from your data. So it might be improving and removing that may think, improving the rubric, and go beyond that by explaining what kind of improvement in the rubric are you trying to do? Are you improving the criteria? Are you improving the level of scores? Or are you entirely revising the entire rubric? So that's a better way of articulating or narrating your use of results. Now, there was another one here. I was stressed about how to achieve the target in 2 projects. I am like my students and want to have an A on what I do. I have to realize that if my expectations are high, and they are, there are going to be some students who are not going to meet them every time. Overall, 18 of 21 students received an A in the class. I am confident they mastered the content, and I will keep my expectations for their proficiency at a high level. Whenever I see something like this, it makes me stop and think, because a grade doesn't really tell you whether the skill and knowledge that is written in your outcome was achieved. A grade is a grade. It could be the student achieved the oral communication, but not the critical thinking. So this will be scored at level 2 and would need like a clear explanation on the results on the data. Now, this one, we will use the results for future student programs and initiatives. This is good. This is a good start. This is at level 2, but explaining and expounding what those programs and initiatives are would tremendously help understand whether they really are seeking improvement. Now, in the reporting process, chair and program director participated in planning. That's who. Annual assessment is based on outcome 1 and 3. Findings were collected from courses taught by John Doe during the academic year. Yes, this is level 2 for me. I'm not sure if I can do some poll on this. Let me see. No, I cannot. It doesn't launch anymore. This is level 2 for the fact that it doesn't clearly specify when and how it will be communicated and implemented. It's see the trick there, if you just answer the guiding questions in each of those elements that we presented earlier, you'll do good. You don't need like what I mentioned earlier. You don't need like a 5-page narrative for this. This is another reporting process. It's quite long. Our reporting process involves this. Outcome 2 was assessed for the first time. Okay. We are in the third and final year. We're closing the loop on this year. We develop our report. Those are good indications that this might be a good reporting process, explaining everything to ensure broad awareness, planned updates to the survey. There are dates. So I think this, I believe this is a level 3 in the criteria for the reporting process rubric. All right. So let's do just a quick recap here. What do strong reports have in common? Well, strong reports have clear alignment, honest reflection, actionable steps, and follow through, of course. Remember, it's not about perfection. Nobody is asking you to have a perfect report or even perfect plan. It's about progress and showing that you're seeking improvement. That's the main thing. Common pitfalls here on the flip side, please avoid these traps that like you're doing it alone, having a mismatch outcomes and measures, you have like vague results, no explanation at all, or not following through. If you are unsure, please do ask. We are here to help and we are here to support you. Now we have tools. Rebecca, I know you've been asking about this. We will have a separate training for you, I promise. Tools and resources. If you have attended Chris's presentation last week, you will see she is using a Word document that has all the information, all the elements of a report, and even the plan. In SPAL, you can actually download that. We have a way to do that, to download what you have entered in SPAL in the past and use that as a start. So in here, you will see, I'm gonna send it through the chat, what it looks like for all of you, everyone. Let me send a file for you right now so you can open it. So I'm sending the underwater basket weaving program dummy and our own in 21-22. So I'm gonna share that. So if you go through that reporting section in SPA, it will look like this. You can even remove some parts that you don't want to see in your report, and you can download it in different formats. So you're not alone in this work. We offer consultations, trainings, and templates like this. This is an actual download. Those things that I just shared in the chat, those are actual download of plan and report in SPAL. You can use that for documentation purposes or for preparation for the next assessment activities. We also have most of our resources in our website. If you, in the last slide, I will share an added link to our website. You will see all those information like assessment measures and how to use them, the rubrics that includes the expectations for each of your plan and reports, the Bloom's taxonomy and all other taxonomies we added in there. We have to update our website. If you are recreating or revising your curriculum alignment matrix, we have some information. So all this is, they are all in our website. All right, so I would just want to say that assessment isn't just a checkbox. They actually reflect a culture of learning and improvement. So thank you so much for your time. I'm now going to open the floor for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Robert. Moses, Robert. Yeah, this is the website for our office. So if you key that in your browser, it will redirect you to that page. Right. Do we have questions? All right. It's been a pleasure. If you need help, you know where to find us. We have our all contact details here. Thank you and happy weekend, everyone. Bye.